It was the kind of headline no one expected, but everyone secretly anticipated. Tyler Perry, the Hollywood mogul who once threw open his mansion doors to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, has finally spoken out, and he didn't hold back. In a stunning twist, Perry, long considered one of Sussex's closest allies in America, revealed his growing frustration with Prince Harry's lack of gratitude. What started as a gesture of kindness in 2020 offering his California home as sanctuary after the couple's dramatic royal exit has now become a source of resentment and simmering tension. The revelation landed like a bombshell. For years, Harry and Meghan had leaned on the narrative of persecution, casting themselves as victims of the monarchy's cold indifference. But Perry's words have upended that script. By openly admitting he feels used and underappreciated, Perry has forced the world to question just how genuine Harry's friendships really are and whether the prince has alienated even those who once saved him. Back in the chaotic days of 2020, as Harry and Meghan fled the UK amid an international media storm, Perry's offer to sprawling Beverly Hills estate was nothing short of life-saving. It was there, tucked behind heavy security gates, that the couple regrouped, plotted their next moves, and launched their post-royal careers. At the time, Perry was hailed as their guardian angel, a man willing to defy royal protocol and Hollywood gossip alike to shelter two of the most controversial figures in the world. Meghan even referred to him as a dear friend in her infamous Netflix series, suggesting a bond rooted in loyalty and mutual trust. But as Perry's latest comments reveal, that trust has been sorely tested. Speaking in what insiders described as a tone of restrained frustration, Perry lamented that Harry never once truly acknowledged the depth of his sacrifice. Instead, the prince carried on as though such generosity was his due, an entitlement rather than a gift. Perry's candid remarks didn't just expose cracks in his personal relationship with Harry. They also sent ripples through Hollywood. In an industry where reputation is everything, word spreads quickly. Tyler isn't someone you want to cross, one unnamed studio executive told reporters. He's respected, powerful, and fiercely protective of his friends. For him to publicly question Harry's gratitude means something serious happened behind the scenes. Almost overnight, whispers began circulating. Had Harry burned yet another bridge? Was his notorious thin skin and antagonistic streak finally catching up with him? The entertainment press feasted on the drama. For years, Meghan and Harry had carefully cultivated their brand as Hollywood royalty. But now, with one of Tinseltown's true kings openly questioning Harry's character, that brand looked shakier than ever. Observers were quick to note that this wasn't the first time Harry had been accused of taking others for granted. Critics pointed to his strained relationships with former military comrades, longtime royal aides, and even his own family. The common thread? A pattern of alienation, entitlement, and antagonism. If the beginning of this saga revealed Tyler Perry's simmering discontent, the middle brought the explosion. What started as murmurs of frustration quickly grew into a Hollywood-wide conversation, one that cast Harry not as the wrong prince, but as a man who can't stop alienating the very people who try to help him. The entertainment world is small, and Perry's words carried weight. Within days of his subtle but stinging rebuke, industry insiders began to share their own stories. Anecdotes of Harry's aloofness at private dinners, his tendency to dominate conversations with tales of royal grievances, and his refusal to extend even the simplest courtesies. Tyler isn't the only one, an anonymous Hollywood publicist revealed. Others have been saying it quietly for years. Harry doesn't say thank you. He expects things, introductions, protection, opportunities, but he doesn't nurture relationships in return. In this town, that's a death sentence. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. Instead of Meghan being painted as the overly ambitious outsider, and Harry the dutiful husband following her lead, Harry himself became the focal point of criticism, the spoiled, antagonistic prince who could never quite shed his royal entitlement, no matter how loudly he shouted about independence. Of course, Meghan wasn't left unscathed. Some critics argued that her influence had made Harry more demanding, more combative, more dismissive of those who helped him. But others insisted Harry didn't need anyone's help being antagonistic. He had been that way long before Meghan entered the picture. The uncomfortable truth, Perry's remarks revealed, was that Meghan may have simply amplified Harry's worst instincts. Where once he had aides and courtiers smoothing over his sharp edges, he now had no one but himself, and the cracks were glaring. The Hollywood elite, who once welcomed Harry and Meghan as a glamorous royal addition to their world, began asking themselves a difficult question. Had they misjudged Harry all along? Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Perry's comments reignited a familiar refrain inside royal circles. For years, palace insiders had whispered about Harry's ingratitude, his inability to appreciate the institution that had given him privilege, wealth, and global stature. Harry always wanted to be seen as the rebel, one royal source explained. But rebellion without gratitude becomes bitterness, and bitterness, over time, poisons everything around it. The royal family, already bruised by Harry's memoir and televised interviews, saw Perry's words as vindication. Here was an American powerhouse, with no ties to the monarchy, echoing the very frustrations they had endured for years. For King Charles and Prince William, it was confirmation that Harry wasn't just at odds with the palace. He was at odds with anyone who challenged his self-pity. As Hollywood insiders fanned the flames, Perry himself seemed determined not to let his message be misinterpreted. According to those close to him, Perry privately expressed that he bore no ill toward Meghan, whom he described as gracious and warm during her time in his home. But with Harry, it was different. Perry reportedly felt that Harry's silence, his refusal to even privately acknowledge the depth of support he'd received, was a sign of character, and not a good one. Gratitude isn't about grand gestures. Perry was quoted as saying, "It's about respect. It's about acknowledgement. And when you can't even do that, it tells me everything I need to know." Those words cut deeper than any tabloid headline. They weren't born of scandal or malice or gossip. They came from a man known for compassion, a man whose entire career was built on lifting others. For Perry to draw such a stark line meant Harry had pushed him past the point of return. By this point, Harry's carefully maintained Hollywood image was in tatters. No amount of Netflix documentaries, Spotify podcasts, or glossy interviews could disguise the reality that one of their most influential allies had turned critical. Even Harry's most ardent supporters began to falter. For the first time, the idea of Harry as an ungrateful, antagonistic prince wasn't just a royal narrative. It was a Hollywood one.